I want to welcome you all to today's webinar. I'm going to be admitting this. My name's Lydia, and so I will be the one answering in the chat box and the Q&A box. We have a lot of people on the call, so only the panelists are going to be on microphone, but if you type something into the Q&A box, I will find a good time to stop and ask the question or answer it just via text if I'm able to. Any other things you guys need me to say?
I don't think so.
All right, then it's all yours.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Sue, and this is John. And we're going to talk about harm reduction from the OG standpoint and through the years. Go ahead.
So that's the old guy perspective. Well, anyways, I actually wanted to say how impressed I am with the numbers. I know it's a mixed bag of different people, but I'm hoping that there is a contingency of new folks that might actually grasp some of the, finer points of outreach and delivery to people that are in fact using drugs. And that's kind of our, what we do best, because we've been doing it for some 20 years and longer. I can remember initially when I first started volunteering and trying to get trained for testing and things like that, that I would go down to Springfield and be in a room full of people getting their testing numbers, but I would be the only one associated with like needle exchange and or harm reduction approaches to things. It was almost as if, I was shunned and thought of as a parasite in the healthcare community. That certainly has changed, and I appreciate that. And I personally thank all of you for being a part of harm reduction and changing that, stigma that in fact people that use drugs aren't worthy of our help. So with that, some 20 years ago when I got involved, we always called the people that we served participants in the program rather than a client, a patient, and things like that, because we always wanted to involve them in the decisions that we made and what we did and how we did it and when we did it.
Yeah.
So anytime we thought of something new that might be helpful, we didn't just implement it. We actually put together a table full of people, of our participants, and asked them a few candid questions about a service or when and where's and how's things might actually work best for them. So, we always deemed our people the experts on them. Because they are unique in the sense that when you're dealing with people that use drugs on a daily basis, inject drugs and rely upon those drugs to get through their daily lives. And sometimes, there's a million reasons why people do that and use drugs continuously. And a lot of people deem it as an escape from the realities of life, and their actual life sucks so badly. So, I've always taken the approach that they don't meet a lot of people in their daily existence that are happy to see them and or even want to engage and be a part of their existence. They just send you on your way or ignore you and hope you go away.
No acceptance.
So, I always have used, in fact, like humor to break the ice with a person. So when I first engage with somebody, I try to, make them laugh and smile. Even though I'm a big and scary kind of guy, and sometimes people say I intimidate people, but I always try to start it out with a little joke and or a big smile, even if it's a toothless smile. You see what I mean? Because then it eases them, because they tend to, when people tend to first engage and they're looking for something as far as services that are connected to their use and stuff, they're always wondering if in fact this is a setup or if this is something that I have to do something I really don't want to do in order to get what I need. So we've always had the approach that, let us help you and assist you in making positive changes in your life, even if it's as simple as using condoms on occasion rather than never, or getting supplies to do your drugs in a safer manner. So we always share research material, information, but we do it in a way that's without a lot of emotion. We're not trying to change people's lives or change people's ideas of how they should live their life, but we want to give them a buffet of information that whatever might work for them, then they use it and apply it, and then they find out. And sometimes you're going to get resistance to all of those things. Okay, they're going to nod their head until they in fact get the things they need, and then they got to go. But it should not stop you from, in fact, trying to subliminally give people ideas and information, because self-preservation applies to most humans. All right, if they hear or see or somebody tells them about something that might actually help them, they tend to think it through and tend to maybe try to apply it and see if it works for them. They're not going to say, yeah, that's a great idea, thanks for telling me. Not everyone. Some people might. But also, you have to be careful of using sympathy over empathy. It's certainly okay to empathize with a person's idea of, their life sucks, what they're going through, and you acknowledge that. But when you start saying things like, oh, that's horrible, I feel so bad for you, and you're feeling, and most people aren't really looking for sympathy. They are looking for empathy. They want somebody to connect with. So, with saying that, that's why, in fact, everything we do includes our participants, so that, in fact, they feel engaged and they feel like it's their program and it's not just something we're doing to meet some numbers that somebody thinks we should be doing. We almost become as if, in fact, a friendly face in their life. They know that they're going to be engaging with a person that's not going to look at them and size them up and say, oh man, you're really, hurting yourself. You're really, doing some really bad stuff. You should stop doing this. You should stop doing that. No, but if we see a situation where some information that we know might in fact be helpful to a person, we certainly could share that with them. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Susie for a minute and get her approach to things.
Good morning. John gave a lot of good information and everything else with harm reduction. And I also feel that we call them participants because nobody takes care of you the best except you. So with that sympathy and empathy, whatever they need at the time, and a lot of it is just non-judgmental, just to listen to them. We're not browbeating. Whatever the case may be, that's what we're here for. And isn't that a refreshment for them? Somebody's not getting down on them or whatever. All we're here to do is help you to help yourself. John, as we said, we've been around here for a long time. A lot of things has changed. When we were out there talking about overdose, oh, did you hear somebody overdose? That was dead. Now it doesn't have to be like that because we can offer overdose prevention. We can teach them. They get to take it with them. They get to train others to do that and take whatever supplies they want to take. Out here, we deliver throughout the whole city of Chicago and I would say 5 or 10 other counties throughout the state of Illinois, and we reach people where they're at. We'll meet them where they need to be because we don't want them to go without harm supplies, whatever their needs are. And also John was going to talk about a little bit about overdose.
Yeah, there's a caveat with naloxone that I fear some people do not force and get the message across that needs to be put out there. Yes, naloxone saves lives, but naloxone still applies to the same message we've been using long before naloxone, and that is don't get high alone. Fix with a friend, because if there is nobody in the room or nobody that knows you're doing what you're doing, you can have naloxone stacked up to the ceiling and still not come out of that room. So, when you in fact are engaging people and making them aware of naloxone and all those things, that message has to be driven home, that naloxone is not going to be the only factor that saves you, that you need another human being to put it inside you to save you. So always, in fact, have somebody watching your back. And that's what we do on a van when we have the open van situation. Right now with the coronavirus, we're acting more like a food truck where you walk up to the window and order the supplies you need. And so engagement is less effective, but you can still send these messages to people. Especially because there's other programs that are scaling back, we are normally front line right out there in the world, but because we're old and have issues that come with old age, we have been replaced with our younger staff members because they're less susceptible to dying from the virus. And even if they did get the virus, they would probably come out of it, where we might not. So I can't say it enough how important it is to get through to people that, yes, I know even if you have to apply the 6 feet distance between people, you have to have somebody around when you pass naloxone out and they have it, because it is, yes, like a safety net for people. And that was one of the big arguments earlier when we started doing naloxone some 20 years ago, is that you're just giving people a reason to get high. They can do more drugs now because they know the naloxone's going to save them and all that other stuff. Well, yeah, okay. They're going to get high because they're going to get high, but they don't want naloxone used on them because all they're doing is then going back to being straight and or on the verge of withdrawal symptoms. So they don't want it used on. So people actually tended to be more careful knowing naloxone was around because they didn't want to be the recipient of that naloxone. Because not only does it waste all their drugs that they did take, and they spent a lot of time and effort to get the money and to get the drugs, they don't want it to all go away in a minute.
Also, what we're doing now, we have 2 vans. We have a lot of fixed sites, and we've had fixed sites ever since the beginning, and then we branched out where most of the drug use was happening. But as John was saying before, we ask our participants, where is the need at? Sometimes because the epi shows it, that doesn't always mean where the need is at for sites or exchanges or whatever. So we're very fortunate on our van. We can HIV, Hep C test. We do exchanges. We get to do harm reduction sessions and things of that sort. Along with, we do that also in our cars. So I live 25 miles outside the city of Chicago. We also have mobile delivery service. And the people in Chicagoland area, since I've been here 20 plus years, they're pretty lucky because we've always had that. So with that, in the suburbs or whatever the need is, we go out and meet them where they're at, by their houses, and whatever services we want. And what's really good about that is that sometimes they don't want to come to the van. Sometimes they don't want to do it like that. Again, that networking with the participant is wonderful. They're open to more services. We're taking them where they want to be that day. Down the line, they might ask for more or whatever their need is, and it's a lot more open. And at the end of the day, isn't it nice that they have clean syringes and whatever they need at the time for themselves?
Yeah, it's really important not to inundate people with all your services the first engagement. Yes, you want to make them aware of things and you point it out, but you don't want to spend a lot of time explaining how all those things work when they, in fact, they're just there to get some supplies to stay safe. You don't want to give them any reasons not to want to come back on a regular basis. And you know that. That's kind of like our hook.
Right.
We get the same people over and over again because they need those supplies and they need them regularly. Where a place that might be brick and mortar and only do like HIV testing and things like that, you know, they're going to get the person when in fact they need a test or thinking about getting a test, and then they might not see that person again for 6 months or a year or whatever the next time they actually have an engagement where they put themselves at risk. But we are going to see people over and over and over again. And then you can then hit them with each and everything you do and make them aware that, hey, maybe next time you might want to, or we have this available, so think about that. Or you could put in a fact sheet from the CDC in their bag about the vaccines that we do. And they can read up on that and say, you know, here's some nighttime readings. Give this a gander. It might work for you. It might be helpful for you. Rather than trying to explain why they should, in fact, get, you know, a meningococcal test or, a vaccine or things like that. They can, you know, these are actually adults and intelligent and can actually, you know, make decisions for themselves. You know, that's the problem. A lot of people seem to think that, you know, they come to you because they don't have any answers and you have the answers. Well, believe it or not, they're pretty inventive. They are pretty on top of things because they have to be. Because when you are in fact addicted to opiates or a user of, and withdrawal symptoms come with that. So you have to be on point, literally 365 days a year, 7 days a week. There's no taking days off or let me take a long weekend. You have to be doing that, getting resources to then get the things the drugs you need, and then the equipment to actually do the drugs. So
their habit doesn't stop.
They're very, very intelligent and on top of what they need in life.
I've learned
and
a
yes,
lot.
you can inform them of other things that might help them, but you have to meet them where they're at and where their focus is. Because when you try to take their focus off their actual need that they need right now, they tend to not want to listen much longer and find excuses to bolt.
Right. And then maybe not come back. So also CRA has started to do smoking kits and snorting kits along with that. And what's been good about that is that, so now the snorters really didn't have need to come to the van, so to speak, unless we were doing a cookout or food or something else. So we are seeing a lot of people that are non-injectors come to the van and get services, getting crack pipes or snorting kits, but getting the OD kits, you know, that they would maybe never had before because there's no reason for that. So a little change of how we're doing outreach now with this epidemic going on right now is we would I meet them in a Walgreens parking lot or a grocery store parking lot. I've already gotten their information via phone. When they drive up, it's on top of my car. We wave hi, and that's it. Of course, if they need any other kind of services, we will do that, you know, with great precaution, you know, and we have done that again throughout the suburbs and the city. John has a room in his house that people come to and of that nature.
Yeah, that's where the whole intimidating factor
I know
actually
it is.
plays for me, because people act respectful enough, and if they don't, they lose the privilege. Because I've always had a room set up in my home for people, because I still
have
live in the
snorting
same
kids?
neighborhood I grew up with. So sometimes
get a
I get
snorting
second
kit.
and
I'll
third
be
generation people that I might have gotten high with earlier in life, and now their kids are following, unfortunately, and so that they, their mother or their fathers tell them that, go see this guy, and he'll give you some of the things you need, even if it's just a handful of condoms for young teenage girls or whatever the case may be. But and I don't expect anybody else to actually go that far. I just felt comfortable enough with that because, I am a big, and people are a little afraid to cross the line with me. And I have a long reputation as being a thug from the neighborhood, because I wasn't a great person. And I don't feel myself to be so much of a great person now, but I do want to help people and assist people in making changes in their life. I've seen so many associates, friends, family perish from, in fact, either the virus and or overdose, that I just can't take it anymore. It's, it's almost driven me out of harm reduction, because it's still happening. People are not, and now with all the fentanyl and all the other synthetic drugs that they're putting in and poisoning the drugs, it's, you're seeing it all over again in big numbers. And if we weren't, in fact, and doing naloxone and now getting support to do it even more, to help others, to help others, those numbers would be like skyrocketing, and literally, baseball stadiums full of people would be dying, in a matter of 3 months, where now it's pretty much 6 months across the country, so to speak. So, all efforts, and I commend you for, listening to me babble on about this stuff, because it's important. And if you are, in fact, going to engage and do this kind of thing, these smaller messages might be helpful in actually getting across to people.
So I was going to show you what we give out. This is our snorting kit, and it is 3 straws, a little card along with a razor blade, and our participants can get that.
Why are the straws different colors, Sue?
You explain to them, John, why they're different colors.
Well, that's just so that everybody can have their own straw and not use somebody else's straw. Back in the day, they would roll up a $1 bill or a $100 bill if you felt like you were being all that. Mm-hmm. But everybody would use the same kind of utensil, and then you got some spreading of fluids and things and stuff like that, which is never a good thing. So that's why we put a few different color straws in there, so that everybody can have the same straw all night while they party on.
Right. Also, we forgot to mention that we're doing drug checking. We have a drug checking grant.
Yeah.
Okay. We have that. Also, we give out fentanyl test strips kits. And it is the test, the instructions, water and cookers, so they can see if they have fentanyl in the drugs that they are using.
There's also a caveat with this. It tells you if in fact there is fentanyl in it, but it doesn't give you kind of how much is in it. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I worry that if a person uses this 5-6 times and finds out that, yes, there's fentanyl in it, but then, they're not going to take the drug and go over to the toilet and flush it down the toilet because it has fentanyl in it. They're still going to use that drug. So if you did this enough times, you can be able to convince yourself that you can handle fentanyl. Well, fentanyl is not something to be, handled, because every bag, just like, even when it was only heroin, is different from the next bag. you play Russian roulette on a daily basis when you are, chasing opiates. So that's a kind of a message you have to also share with people when you are engaging people with fentanyl strips and telling them that yes, it might tell you there's fentanyl in it, and you might be able to do it and get away with it. But you can also do things like use half of it, use less, check it out, see how much fentanyl is in there before you just, drop the whole load.
Veronica, you were asking what was the difference of why the different colors of the straws? Because if there's 3 people, everyone knows their colors. So you know that John and I aren't sharing the purple straw or whatever. So that's why they're 3 different colors. Also, I wanted to share with you our crack kits. It comes with 2 glass pipes that we give out. Little tips for safer smoking that we have, sorry. And we also give the Chore Boy out. And an alcohol wipe. So this is our crack pipes, and then our overdose kits that we do. Our overdose consists of 3 ampules, is that
single dose vials?
3 single dose vials, and then we have the syringe, because this is muscle, and that's all in our overdose kit. Not that's all, that's very important, and they're 1 dose vials, because usually a lot of times in the past, if the paramedics come and they want to get you out of an overdose, they might hit you with 5 cc's, and they don't know what you took or whatever, so that could put you with instant withdrawal and things of that nature.
Some folks that are on the webinar today might in fact want to be doing more as far as harm reduction, but have resistance from people above. But you can always acquire some of our site sheets that not only have our locations where people can come and get supplies and or get naloxone, but also numbers of staff that they can call and ask questions of. So even if that's all you can actually get away with doing in your agency, your atmosphere it's actually a lot, because giving somebody a resource like this could save their life.
Mm-hmm.
So I just put that out there in case there's somebody that's, having to deal with people behind desks that sometimes are reluctant to do things that might in fact fall back on them for helping people get high.
Okay, so Lydia, go ahead, Lydia.
Are you ready for some questions?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Sarah is asking if you can talk a little bit more about calling folks participants. I know that you touched on that at the beginning, but if you could just reiterate why you feel that's the right word, why it might be important, why it would be used over other words.
Well, anytime you're actually participating in something, you feel more engaged and more a part of, rather than, you're being interviewed, you're actually talking about something that affects you on a daily basis. And we want people to feel as if this is their program and we're just kind of being where they need us to be, rather than we decide what you should get.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the participant, participant is only a word, but it instills in people a feeling that they are more involved and it's their program rather than a client or a patient. Then it's like a doctor and they're up here and you're down here and they're talking to you down. See, we like to get here.
So
right.
It's not so medically Go ahead.
The next one is, how many people would you estimate both of you personally have saved from an overdose?
Well, before naloxone, I saved a few people. After naloxone, I saved a few people. It was actually a few weeks back, maybe a month now, I had somebody come into my house to get some supplies, right? Well, apparently, there was two young females. They're probably 25-ish, right? So the one I knew because I knew her mother and her aunt, and we got high together back in the day. But so she came to the house and she got the supplies. She called ahead, and I was getting ready to go to work. I said, "You got to hurry," texting back and forth. You know how they love the text. I hate the text, but I have to keep answering them, so they keep coming. But anyways, so she comes in and she gets all the supplies she needs, and but apparently they stopped en route, scored some drugs, and the person that she had in the car with her was not an injector and was not so much a heroin addicted individual. It was just because that was the drug that was available, she decided to do a line, right? So she was fine when the girl got out of her car to come into my house and get her supplies that she needed for injecting. But when she went out to the car, the person had overdosed and she couldn't get any response from her. So she ran back up to my house and was ringing the doorbell and beating on the door. I'm literally walking out the back door of my house. So I had, and she's overdosed. So I had to run and get some naloxone. I went out there and I actually hit her a few times. Yeah. And, I was breathing for her while she was sitting up in the passenger seat. And, but she wasn't coming out of it. So I literally I used all the doses in the kit I grabbed to run out there with, right?
Which is 3 doses.
So I had to run in the house, and literally when I'm in the house, I loaded up 2 doses in one syringe and ran out there and hit her. And, not long after that, she kind of showed life, and started to come out of it. Also, certainly a little bit out of it, but breathing on her own. You need more and more and more. So the more you can get in you and not have the room filled with smoke, the higher you get, and then the less you have to actually acquire.
And also, we're starting to collect data on this because, like John said, these pipes are new. So we'll know better more in the numbers next time around.
Can everybody see the pipe? You see the little hole? That's where you put
John,
your meth in.
Hold it up.
Put your meth in the little hole, and then you heat it to the point where it turns liquidy to vapor, and then you suck it in.
Okay, Lydia.
Yes, and everyone, I want to let y'all know, because I see a lot of questions about meth coming in, that we're going to be pulling together a stimulant and meth webinar after this, kind of as we figure out what people want to know about. Okay, let's see here. Can you speak a little more about how we can express empathy rather than sympathy with clients to help motivate them?
Well, that really depends on your where you are in your life. All right, some people have never used drugs, but that does not exempt them from being able to help somebody. All right, you just have to be one of the good ones that wants to help a person regardless of the decisions they make for themselves. You don't want to be judgmental. Don't get me wrong, there's some people that really love and enjoy sympathy and woe is me characters in life that, want you to say, oh, you got, but most people are out there taking care of themselves on a daily basis. And if you have some understanding of the things they go through, and fortunately or unfortunately, some of us have been through a lot of the things people are going through in life. So it's a little easier to empathize, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have done something. So don't go out and, start doing drugs so that you can, understand what a person that does drugs is thinking.
And we have to be non-judgmental and taking people where they're at. If they come and want a referral for treatment and then they don't go, that was their choice. We still want them to come back, and it's any positive change.
And that's where assisting comes in, because it's their idea. They want, when they come to you and they want something, they're going to let you know what it is that they're thinking and want to do. And that's when you assist them in getting there. You don't look at them and say, oh, you look pretty rough, man. You really need to go into a detox. You know what I'm saying? Yes, they might look rough, but they're not ready to go into detox. All they're going to say, can you help me find a detox?
That's right.
All right. What do you do to manage your own stress from the job?
That's something that I think we have a hard time with. And we're trying to learn better about that. And I don't do a good job at that, you know? Maybe this COVID pandemic right now, since I'm not physically working the sites, maybe that's my little break, but I'm not good. And our ED put something together for us that we're trying to work as a community and a team at CRA to try to get some stress and help for all of our team.
Myself, I'm kind of doing other things. Like, you know, I'm trying to bring back the volunteer area and make that a more pleasant experience for people to come and share and help the organization with kit building and or, you know, moving on as far as bringing the naloxone to their agencies and things like that, and they want to get information. So, you know, I find myself doing things that are really less harm reduction related, but also will benefit in the long term, the organization
Kind
as
of full
a
circle.
whole. Because, you know, this is my life. This is what I'm going to do until I can't do it anymore.
That's right.
Okay, this is a pretty big one. No, wait, I lost it. 1 second. It's about naloxone. Any suggestions on how states or local governments can access more affordable naloxone?
Well, we've been suggesting that, and we've always made the most effective and the most
Right here.
affordable naloxone available. You know, certainly intranasal because people have needle phobias and all that. But when you compare how much you have to spend for intranasal
Dollar to
to
dollar.
this intermuscular injectionable naloxone, it's pretty easy to make the decision. And we've never purchased nasal in the 20 years I've been around here. We've had it. It was donated to us, and, you know, we are the naloxone experts, so to speak. So they want us to get it out to people, but we would never make the decision to spend the money in that manner. You know, if
And
it
the
comes
end
to
result.
saving people's lives, most people can get past their little, you know, fear of needles and such. Because most of the times you're, you know, engaging with a person you know and or care and or love, that you're not going to let a little, you know, feeling stop you from saving their life. And we could just get more out there. And that's what it's all about. We'd like to see it in everybody's medicine cabinet and bedside drawer, you know, so that it's readily available, even if you don't use.
Right.
All right, I've got 2 COVID ones back to back. So
Those are yours.
how has COVID affected availability of drugs on the street and other ways that COVID is affecting the community?
Well, the drugs on the street, I think it's a little rougher, and also making the money to buy the drugs is more so, I think, than getting the drugs on the street, personally. So people can't make the money, whatever their hustle is, if they don't have a steady income job that way or whatever. That's really harder. What I'm seeing through my outreach and, you know, throughout the counties, that's what I'm seeing more of.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that actually the law enforcement has used the coronavirus as a tool to stop drug trade. Okay, they've literally at times put a police car on the end of a couple block radius area where drugs have been known to move out of, and use it as like a police state. You can't even go on the block unless you live there. They check your ID. So, and that was also that they could then enforce social distancing, because they said that the drug dealers would congregate to sell their wares. So that, there'll be groups of people on that block, and they wanted to stop that from happening. But they really were just causing suffering on individuals that are without any other answers as far as trying to help people. So that's what I've seen and read about, because I read the paper regularly, and it happened. And all certainly they pulled back on that because they got some bad press about it. But I imagine they're still doing a lot of that, and like the recent race profiling and stuff. If they see like white folks in a generally black neighborhood, they kind of know why they're there mingling and running around. So they put the heavy hand on them and run them out of the area, and things like that certainly are happening. So yes, not only their lifestyle is a tough lifestyle, now it just got worse. It just got harder to actually get through the day.
And then I know you mentioned this earlier, John, but what protective measures are you taking for staff during COVID, and how have you altered your outreach during COVID?
Well, like Susie mentioned, I actually do needle exchange right out of my house, right? But now when they call me and they say they need this and that and everything, so I get their order together, I bag it all up, I get the general information that we are required to ask, and then I, tell them, text me when you're a few minutes away, and I'll put it out on the stoop. And I don't engage, and I don't see people.
And also on our sites, Lydia has gotten really good protocol for us. We're masked, we're gloved up. Usually before this, we let our participants come on the site. We're not allowed to do that. We don't let them do that. Like John said, it was like a food truck. They wait in line. We have signs outside of our van to show them the social distancing. We're getting together. We have protocol for testing and so forth. So we are protective, hand sanitizers, masks, gloves. Lydia's got us down on that. And I'm just not saying that she's got us locked.
All right, here's one. How long does naloxone last until it expires if not used?
Actually, research has been shown that it could last up to years if stored correctly. And that is the only real problem with naloxone is light. Sunlight, LED light, fluorescent light, any light that gets to that bottle, because it's a clear bottle, can then diminish its potency. But early on, because we've been doing this over about 20 years, we found that people have forgot they had naloxone, and it was in the drawer, and they used it because somebody overdosed, and then realized that it was 2 years old. You know what I mean? But it was in a dark drawer where it needed to be, or in a dark bag, so that light can't penetrate. And even the government has done research to show that it's 90% potency even after 4 years. So yes, don't ever throw away naloxone because the expiration date says it's over until you get new naloxone, and you can always do that. But old naloxone is better than no naloxone.
Absolutely. And don't forget, it doesn't hurt Doesn't hurt anybody unless it has opiates in it.
Right. There's no side effects. You're not going to harm somebody, even if you don't know it's opiate overdose. If you used it, paramedics will use it as a process of elimination. If they find somebody laying in the street and there's no visible signs of why they're laying there not breathing, naloxone is their go-to.
Yeah.
Because they know that there's no going to ill effect if in fact it's not an opiate overdose.
All right, one last question, and then I'm going to wrap it up by answering some of the t-shirt questions.
Sure.
But this is from Threshold Substance Use. They're providing phone and video therapy now. What would you like to see Thresholds do to support our community of folks using substances right now?
Overdose prevention. Also, syringe exchange. Also, testing for Hep C, HIV. That's what I would love. Be vaccinated. You know, vaccination.
You can't do that stuff over the video, though.
Oh, video, sorry. I took it and ran with it. Sorry.
I mean, there's probably, a limited number that are in fact going to resort to this kind of thing, because sometimes access to a computer and or the highway, whatever that is, World Wide Webby kind of thing is probably not their everyday thing. But, with the phone thing and all that and the hotspots they have generated throughout the city, I guess some people can do that, and just being there and even sending them our way.
The referrals.
You know what I'm saying? If they touch on things that you can't do over, but they need some supplies and or support, all those things are something that, and you've always done that, Thresholds. We know that. We know you.
And working together as a team, both on both sides, so that they get what they need, no matter where it's coming from, right?
All right, so to wrap this up, Susie, can you explain what your t-shirt says?
Oh, okay. First of all, I want to take this, okay? Wait a minute. So there is Mr. Dan Big. He is the original. You have to do this because I'm having a struggle here.
Well, he was recognized as a Man of the Year for overdose, literally by Chicago Magazine, right? So, he started, it was his idea some 20 years ago, and that's why it's now happening not only across the country, but the world, so to speak. And unfortunately, we lost him, but we still have him, because through all of us, it's still happening, and it's growing. And that's what he envisioned. I mean, he had vision, because literally before we ever, in fact, handed out a syringe during needle exchange, he had a doctor write him a prescription for 20 million insulin syringes. Because that's the number, that was back in 1991. He wanted to be able to give syringes to everybody that needed them. So you're talking about a man of vision, and we are just kind of carrying on his legacy. And this shirt was devised for big, and then the back says love. So it's a big love t-shirt recognizing that man. But now we are going to use it as a fundraising tool.
That you'll be able to go on, is it Any Positive Change website, Lydia? That you're going to be able to order it. It's we're in the process of getting that together and opening up a little store on our website soon to come. So anybody that would like one of these, because they're wonderful and they're good t-shirts. There's not crappy ones.
And the proceeds are going to kind of go into a fund to help us help others, which we've always done, but now it's becoming, harder to do because the demand is growing. So we have to find other sources of money so that we can then buy more syringes, buy more stuff to actually help other smaller programs get started and or sustain themselves, because it's also difficult to get funding at this time because they're spending billions of dollars on other things.
I just want to say, and also, this is one thing that CRA has always done, always help the little guy start, no matter what. Through supplies, they could call, outreach to anybody. So I'm sorry, Lydia, go ahead.
No, you did what I was going to do, which is plug the website. So that is bringing us to the end of our webinar. We're only a few minutes over, so that's pretty good. I would also say, everyone, if you have any future topics you would like CRA to cover in a webinar, please type those in the chat box and I'll take note of them. Yeah, you guys want to close this out?
Well, I certainly appreciate the number of people that took the time to, in fact, try to pick our brains, and hopefully you got something out of it. But the encouragement comes from knowing that there are so many good people willing to, in fact, then either put themselves at risk or learn. So after this virus goes away, because if we don't keep doing what we're doing, we're liable to have another epidemic of HIV, because sharing of syringes and all those things are the reason we started doing this stuff, is to knock those numbers down. And we've been very, very successful at it. But so it's not a time where we should stop doing it and hope for the best. It's a time we should still do it and keep doing it until, in fact, those numbers are nil.
Absolutely. And keep staying together as a team, helping people where they're at, and hearing how it works for you, what works best for you. This is just CRA's perspective, John and Susie's. We would love to hear from you, any information. And thanks for taking the time. And again, anypositivechange.org for any information, any help, or just to say hey, because we'll say hey back, right, babe?
That's right.
All right, thanks. Have a great day. Wash your hands, right, Lydia? And stay safe.